Shipman, are you in favor of striking plank 102?
I'm opposed.
Okay, and Mr. Garcia, are you in favor or opposed to striking? Are you in favor of striking plank 102?
I'm opposed.
Okay, we've had one in favor.
I'm in favor. I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
You're in favor of striking.
Yes, sir.
We have two in favor.
Don't cover your mouth.
One opposed.
Is
Is there anyone else opposed to striking plank 102? Hearing none, are you ready for the vote? Let me clear all the hands. All those in favor of striking plank 102 using the green, check yes. In favor of striking, check yes. Opposed to striking, check no. We'll finish in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In favor of striking, yes, is 14. Opposed, no, is 9. The motion is lost.
Mr. Chairman, Will Lutz.
Mr.
Chairman.
Could we stand at ease for 1 second here? I need to get the two witnesses lined up, Mr. Lee and Mr. Grooby.
Mr. Chairman.
Information.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that you called that correctly.
Correct.
You didn't call the vote correctly.
I'm sorry. Okay, all those in favor of striking.
No, you called, I'm talking about the results was called reverse to what you said.
Okay, what we have, okay, it's I haven't cleared the votes yet. If people have cleared their votes, all those in favor of striking was yes. All those opposed to striking was no.
Correct,
And
but
the
you said it
motion
the
carried.
opposite. You said it the opposite as you reported the results.
Oh, okay. So what I have is 13 yeses and 9 nos. 13 yeses in favor of striking, 9 nos opposed to striking. So the motion is
Adopted.
It passes.
that's
Passes to
correct.
strike.
You know what? You all are right. The motion is adopted.
Blank is stricken. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's been a long week, folks.
Yeah, it has.
Take a breath and go on.
Yeah. You know what? If we can, I'd like to stand at ease. I'm not going to worry about this time frame. Let's get Mr. William Lee and Mr. Grooby so we can hear testimony on the censure. I'd like to get them on the line and at least waiting, ready to ready to testify.
We have 12 minutes left.
Point of information.
Mr. Patrick, you're recognized.
To
I
say-
was just reminding the chair that we have 11 minutes until we have to conclude our business.
Mr. Chairman, to expedite, may we send those two witnesses or the two for testimony?
Order.
The direct link.
Well, I just wanted to stand at these for a second, allow my secretary to call these folks up and get them on the chat, get them online, ready to testify whenever we're ready. And I'll work on getting us some more time.
Mr. Chair, David Westbrook, SD26.
Mr. Westbrook, you're recognized.
I've been told that there were resolutions submitted from the body for us for our consideration. Is that the case? Or not?
Yeah, they were all emailed out to everybody. And it is up to the committee to bring those resolutions forth for consideration.
I haven't seen any. That's why I was asking.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Luth. Mr. Lutz.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's one sentence I want to add to our voter registration plank that I think is probably a non-controversial technical cleanup, famous last words. It's in the chat box. Would you recognize me for it?
I'm going to clear everything, the chat box. Okay, the motion is on the floor. Which plank is this?
It was 222, but we've been renumbering it. It's the plank titled voter registration. Between the second and third sentence, add "we support periodic checks on the voter rolls to ensure all currently registered voters are eligible with prompt removal of ineligible voters." So it just says, okay, I heard a second. It just says, check the voter roll regularly and get people who aren't eligible to vote off the voter roll. I think that's an important, so that's now 215. So you have a long second sentence right there between registered voters and the word registered voters and "we." Add the sentence you see in the chat box. I also emailed it to you yesterday. I hope this is non-controversial in this committee.
Okay, would the editor please place the sentence in?
Do we need a second for this motion?
I believe
Yeah.
Lisa.
It has been properly moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Where do you want it
You
added?
see where it says the names of deceased voters removed from the list of registered voters? It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line between the word voters and the word "we." Do you see it right there? Right between the word voters and the word "we." I think it's about the 6th or 7th line down. Do the editors see that? Frankly, if you put it at the end, that's close enough.
Right there.
Yeah, right there.
Nope.
Nope.
It went in the wrong place.
It's right between sentences, but if you have to tack it on to the end, I'm okay with it. Just let's get it in.
Okay. Is there anyone opposed to tacking this on? We support periodic checks on the voter rolls to ensure all currently registered voters are eligible with prompt removal of ineligible voters. Hearing none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for my bad.
Without objection, the motion will be adopted. Hearing none, the motion is adopted.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Patrick, you're recognized.
I move to cease amendments to the platform and adopt as written so that we can move to resolutions, please.
The motion is on the floor to cease amendments and to move to resolutions. Do we have a second?
Carl McConnell, SD 13. I second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Mr. Patrick, or we can just take an up and down vote on it?
Yeah, just real quickly, we've spent a lot of time on this platform. We've all done a lot of hard work. We've worked a lot of long hours. We've done the best we can to represent all of our SDs and the delegates that we represent. But we can never get everything done. This happens every year. At some point, we have to call it a day. And I think after, what have we been in at this 7 days now? We've done a good job and we can be proud of our work, but let's wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Anyone opposed?
Rolando Garcia, SD 15.
Mr. Garcia, state your opposition.
I understand the time constraints we're under, and I understand that we've already put in a lot of work and taken a lot of testimony, but I do not feel comfortable approving this platform and moving it to the floor without at least taking some delegate testimony. I mean, we are a grassroots, this is a grassroots platform, and I would like to at least hear some delegate testimony before we approve this platform.
Absolutely. We will do that. Karen, is it set up that we can take testimony yet? Because I think Brandon was working on that.
I will check with him. Otherwise, do I give the Zoom link to these gentlemen? And please see your email, sir.
Okay.
Question, if we do take public testimony, how do we determine which ones get taken?
Mr. Chairman, I may ask a question. Senate District 8, Paul Chabot.
If we want to try to get this.
Yeah.
Chairman, testimony was just addressed on RPT email.
Where are you?
Mr. Chairman, do we want to vote on the motion pending?
Yeah, let's vote on the motion on the floor. And then we will go to testimony. The motion on the floor, wait, we just voted on the motion and it passed. There was a voter, the voter registration.
Motion
now
on the
11.
floor is to adopt the platform. So I think we're holding up on that for testimony. Is that right, Mr. Chair?
No, we cannot adopt the platform until part of the resolutions are part of the platform, which means we go right to the resolution. And I need to make sure that we are, I need to make sure that we have the testimony portion of this opened up so that we can have people come and testify. And let me okay.
Mr. Chairman.
But I think this has an unintended consequence where the current tax rate of school districts would then just be moved to the sales tax rate, and you would create school.
Okay, where are we hearing that from? Do we have is the link up?
It sounded like Mary Gershenschlager.
Okay.
No, Mary Lynn did not speak.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may we send the Zoom link for this session to the DA and get his testimony as we're running into?
Yes, yes. Yes, if we can do that, please. Karen, could you send it to the DA? And we all heard Mr. Grooby. And let me call Brandon and see if we can get a link up. I think we do. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
What are you trying to do? Point of information, point of order, what?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Paul Perry, SD 22.
The chairman is on the phone with the executive director at the moment on the method of taking testimonies.
Would you do something for me? SD 28 has Amanda Smith was elected, but she's not been given access to participate. That's according to Heather Fazio.
Right. I just emailed her the link.
Okay.
I literally just got her information sent to me.
Okay.
So I have tell Heather that I did email the elected person.
Thank you.
And it sounds like the method is just to invite them onto the Zoom call in order to testify. That's how we're going to have to take testimony.
I think that's right, Karen.
But I have not gotten the contact info of the two gentlemen for the resolution yet.
And I have one more point.
Okay, sure. That's the one we have to put out for everybody, correct? The one that we put
Jeff,
in.
do you have contact information, email information for the two people regarding the resolution?
Once you go.
Yes,
go ahead and
I've
put that up
spoken
on
to
the
Chairman
website.
Groove. He's waiting.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
Jeff, can you text me his email or something?
Oh, okay. We just want to go to delegates.
Do you want the number I have for him to see if it's correct?
Well, just text it to me.
Okay.
I didn't want to announce it on a live.
I understand.
And then, so is Groove,
I'll tell you what, let me get Karen, because to run that and to do all those little technical things. All right, let me.
Mr. D'Orazio, you're not muted.
I know, I can't, we're working on the link so that people can testify. And Karen, he's gonna call you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, point of information, the DA is in our waiting room on the Zoom call.
The DA is where?
In the Zoom waiting room.
Is that Lee Hahn?
Yes.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, let me know when you want me to admit him, or are you going to, Mr. Chairman?
I want you to admit him.
Right now?
Well, without objection, would the committee like to hear the testimony of Mr. Lee Hahn in reference to the censure against him from the county chair, Fred Grooby, in Polk County?
I object unless Mr. Grooby has been contacted and will be testifying.
Yes, I did contact Mr. Grooby and I told him to watch for the email and the testimony that's going to happen today. Let me see if I can find his phone number and I will try to call him right away. All right.
I'm awaiting you guys vote as to whether I should admit this gentleman or not.
Okay. Okay, we had without objection. There was an objection. Let me see. Let me find Mr. Grooby.
Mr. Grooby is texting me saying he does not have a link.
Okay, Karen will give him the link.
As soon as somebody gives me his contact information.
Mr. LeBlanc, could you get the contact information for Mr. Grooby to give to Karen?
No.
Mr. Chair, I sent you his contact info.
Okay, thank you. Well. Which
Mr. Chair, I would request that we go back to speaker view when these public people start talking so we can see what they look like and their reactions and what have you. Carl McConnell, ST 13.
let me finish up with Mr. LeBlanc. I do not see it on my emails. Did you send it to mark@DeRazioenterprises.com or the platform 2020?
I sent it to you in chat privately. to
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. De LeBlanc, if you could text that to me, maybe we could speed up the process.
Karen, I don't have your number.
Yeah, you should have it. I just texted it to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, inquiry, Paul Chabot, Senate District 8.
Mr. Chabot, parliamentary, point of information. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Correct. If Mr. LeBlanc is having difficulty reaching his chairman, he was the one that read and provided the testimony as well.
Yes.
So could we not A, consider that testimony has already been provided, this is the rebuttal, or B, Jeff can repeat what he said, Mr. LeBlanc can repeat what he said on Wednesday night.
Well, without objection, we'll proceed.
I object.
Okay. Let me call. Karen, do you have your information?
I do, sir. I'm just dialing it all in.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a parliamentary inquiry while you wait for this.
Nothing introduced by the body. They've hashed it over to the.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Rolando Garcia, SD15.
Mr. Garcia.
Yes, my inquiry is, you may have mentioned this before, but did we ever get a parliamentary ruling on whether the vote we took before the live stream was in order?
Yeah, I spoke with the chairman. I could not get a hold of the parliamentarian, and he said you just got to back up and start where we left off at the motion, that the way that we handled it, and go on. We have to get the work done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Chairman, I have a point of information.
Check when the play is going to be and when I'm going to be a delegate.
Yeah, it's the day after. The play ends on the 23rd and the delegate stuff starts the 20th.
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman has been notified by email and by phone, and meanwhile, Lee Han is still in the waiting room. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Okay, I just got off the phone with Mr. Grooby. He has the link. He's ready to, just waiting for it to be accepted. And Mr. William Lee Hahn, the link to be accepted. Now, all you guys who deal with this kind of stuff, does the defendant go first? Does the the one accused go first or the one who's bringing the charges go first? All right, we will have Mr. Lee Han.
The one
defend
bringing the
himself.
charges typically goes
Can you,
first.
on
Mr. Chairman.
on the resolution, on the Polk GOP resolution, without objection. Do we
Mr.
have
Chairman?
Mr. Han on the line?
Mr. Chairman, typically the person
William
making
Lee
the accusation
Hahn,
would go
H-O-N.
first.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Let me try calling him.
Sir, I just have not let him in yet.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chuck Burnett, SD20. Mr. Chairman, may I be briefly recognized?
Okay, we have Mr. Han and Mr. Grooby. They're both logged in. They're just waiting for us to allow them the motion to speak. Mr. Nobles, are you ready for your time? It is allowed 2 minutes per each individual, and at the
Yes,
and
Mr. Chairman.
it is the privilege of the committee to extend time should we need to do so.
Mr. Chair, I would again
Karen,
request
can
that we
you let Mr.
remove,
Han in?
Mr. Chair, I would again request that we go back to live view and remove the platform so we can see the full picture of the speaker.
Mr. Chairman, call to question.
Good idea, Mr. Speaker. Can we see the testifiers on their screen, please? Is Phil still with us?
Mr. Chairman, Amber Shipham, SD4. The question has been called. Can you please rule on that?
Ms. Shipham, I'm going to have to have it redone. Karen, are we ready for we are getting ready to have testimony that was required by the committee. What was the call to question called on?
Mr. Chairman, this is Chuck Burnett, SD20. Would it not be appropriate to hear the charges before we hear testimony?
Yes, it would. I'd like to get them on so that we can read them and we can have Mr.
Mr. Lee Han is in the meeting, sir.
Okay. Okay. Let us. Mr. LeBlanc, would you like me to read the resolution on what we are going to have testimony on?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay, or would you like to read it?
I'll have to get it pulled back up. Give me one moment. I apologize.
Yeah, it needs to come from you. Karen, can Mr. Hahn hear us speak? Okay,
I believe he can.
okay, there he is, right in the middle of the screen. Thank you, Mr. Hahn. We
opening
appreciate you. We appreciate you being with us, and we wanted to hear it from you before we re-vote on this. Mr. LeBlanc, are you ready to read? Or,
One more second, sir. It's bringing the document up.
all right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while he's bringing that up, I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chabot.
Will there be another witness then or statement other than the DA on this
Yes,
matter?
yes, there will. And Mr. Grooby is also in the chat room. If Karen, you want to bring him up also?
Mr. Chairman, in addition to my remarks, then I would recommend that the proper procedure would be, in addition to reading out the statement, from having that Senate district witness provide their information first so that the DA then has an opportunity to respond in kind to the full accusation.
Okay, so we have to have the county chairman testify first and then.
Yes, sir. That would be
DA.
my.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, without objection, we will have Mr. Grooby speak first.
I'm ready with the
Karen,
document, Mr. Luizio.
you're ready with the document. Okay, Karen, could you get Mr. Grooby up on the, could you get him up on the screen?
Well, I can't while the resolution by Mr. LeBlanc is being shared, but both gentlemen are in the meeting and they can both hear you both.
Okay, would they, would the editors please take down the shared screen on the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we need that. Okay, Mr. LeBlanc, proceed with the censure, and then we will hear Mr. Grooby first, and then Mr. Lee.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to read what was submitted in whole or just what is on the screen?
Let us start with the second. Let's go with start with the third whereas without objection. Okay, hearing none, we'll start with the third whereas and read to the be it further resolved. Mr. LeBlanc, you have the floor.
The third whereas, as instructed to read, says, whereas Polk County Criminal District Attorney William Lee Hahn acted in disregard of the First Amendment when he filed suit against Polk County Clerk Shalina Hawk for the release of personal text messages in violation of RPT Principle 1, which supports strict adherence to the original language and intent of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitutions of the United States and Texas. Whereas, I'm sorry.
Yeah, keep reading all the way down through.
Okay. Whereas Polk County Criminal District Attorney William Lee Hahn acted in disregard, sorry, my computer is messing up, of the First Amendment when he filed complaint with the Livingston Police Department against a man under indictment with the state of Texas because he came to a Republican club meeting and took pictures in violation of RPT Principle 1, which supports strict adherence to the original language and intent of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitutions of the United States and Texas. And whereas Polk County Criminal District Attorney William Lee Hahn acted in disregard of the First Amendment when he unsuccessfully, through a special prosecutor, sought a Class A misdemeanor against an adversary in violation of RPT Principle 1, which supports strict adherence to the original language and intent of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitutions of the United States and Texas. And therefore be it resolved in accordance with Rule 44 of the Rules of the Republican Party of Texas, the Executive Committee of Polk County Republican Party meeting July 10th, 2020, a quorum being present by a vote of at least 2/3 present and voting, hereby censures Polk County Criminal District Attorney William Lee Hahn, a public office holder representing the entirety of Polk County, for 3 or more actions violating core principle of the RPT platform. And Be it further resolved, we request this censure be considered and sustained by the delegates of the 2020 Republican Party State Convention assembled, and that the penalties provided in RPT Rule 44 be imposed.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. Mr. Grooby, do you wish to speak to we'd like you to speak to your resolution. You have the floor, Mr. Grooby.
Mr. Chairman, can you pull down the resolution, please?
Could you please restate that?
Can you pull down the resolution from the screen, please?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Grooby, is he in? We can't hear him, Karen.
Can y'all hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank y'all for being patient. First, I want to point out that Mr. Hahn chooses on his own not to attend our meetings because they're wide open to the public. He doesn't come to our fundraisers. He's given exactly $0 to the county party other than his filing fees every 4 years. He manages to track us down when that comes around. He's only set foot in here one time that I can think of. As for his actions, Mr. Hahn ignores our platform. He has a history of taking things personal and using his position as DA to go after the individual he assumes is responsible. He allows his friends to circumvent the process of making complaints, while at the same time ignores complaints against those within his protected circle. All three actions in our censure resolution are examples of his vindictiveness. The primary duty of a DA is to see that justice is done. Yet all too often, he uses the strong arm of the government to suppress free speech that he doesn't like. That's hardly in the interest of justice. I've provided to y'all's inbox solid documentation of the violations in question. Mr. Hahn is a toxic, pot-stirring individual that's constantly driving wedges between Republicans in Polk County. He doesn't value our principles, and we've properly followed the rules set before us to address those not willing to operate within our agreed upon principles. Therefore, I ask y'all today, please don't stand as a barrier to justice. I urge the adoption of this resolution. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grooby. Mr. Hahn, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is William Lee Hahn. I'm the elected criminal district attorney of Polk County in Senate District 3. I'm currently serving in my 4th term of office. To my knowledge, I'm the only elected Republican district attorney in the history of Polk County. I've been a prosecutor for 25 years. Friday, I learned for the first time that a resolution had been submitted by my county party seeking my censure. The resolution stemmed from a meeting that took place on July 10th. I was unaware that any resolution was being considered against me or that any resolution had passed. I had no notice of this until 2 days ago. I did not receive a copy of the resolution until 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and for the first time learned of the nature of the allegations. I prepared a short response to the resolution, which I emailed to the chairman, and I trust that it has been shared with each of you. I would respectfully request my response be read into the record because it contains a detailed response to each of the allegations. In the interest of time, I will not go into all of those. Curiously, the same day, my county's executive committee also voted to censure Governor Abbott. That was posted on their Facebook page the very next day. They did not publish mine on their Facebook page or notify me at all of their action. I can only assume that this was calculated to allow this process to go by without me having any notice whatsoever of their action or have an opportunity to prepare a timely response. Ironically, all the allegations against me assert that I failed to adhere to the language and intent of the constitutions. One of the principles of our Constitution is that of procedural due process, a concept which has been totally lacking in regard to the resolution against me. This lack of transparency, in my opinion, stems from the specious and misleading nature of these allegations against me. Two of the allegations stem from discretionary legal decisions that I made in my capacity as an elected district attorney under the law of the state of Texas. One stems entirely by actions taken to me as a private individual to protect both me, myself, and my family, a right that I have under the United States Constitution and that of the state of Texas. As I said, a short response to each allegation was included in the email that you received, and I'm not going to go over those again. I categorically deny each allegation that has been made. Two of the allegations are false or so out of context that they are libelous and defamatory. Let me use those two words again, libelous and defamatory. Neither our county chair nor anyone associated with their executive committee has
Mr.
ever
Chairman.
spoken to me about the matters alleged.
Chairman Tom.
Mr. Hahn, does anyone wish to extend his time?
Mr. Chairman, I move to give him 1 more minute.
Okay, it's been moved without objection. We'll give Mr. Hahn 1 more minute.
Thank you.
Hearing none, it's adopted. Mr. Hahn, you have 1 more minute. Mr. Nobles, would you keep the time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I would add that in 2016, one of my assistant prosecutors on his own initiative ran unsuccessfully against our current county chairman. In the aftermath of that race, our county chair, who is in my opinion an unabashed libertarian, has been constantly critical of me and my office. His motives in this instance are entirely transparent. It is inconceivable that such allegations can be brought before this body with no evidence and no notice whatsoever to the affected office holder. For all of my life, I have enthusiastically embraced the principles of the Republican Party, but it is critical that DAs are able to exercise their discretion and make decisions without being controlled by the county's executive committee. This resolution sets a dangerous precedent as it seeks to inject party politics directly into decisions which need to be made objectively based on evidence and law. As it is with judges, nearly every decision I make causes someone to be unhappy. Adding politics into these kinds of decisions will lead to very bad consequences at a time when the fairness of our judicial system is already under attack. Being censured. Finally, as a citizen, I have the right to resort to legal process to protect myself and my family.
Time.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Mr. Dunham, state your point of order.
Yes, sir. I believe that this would be a gross miscarriage of justice, not knowing these 2 gentlemen, not having the evidence in front of us. That's what courtrooms are for. And if it's not illegal of what has occurred, then by guys, there's a voting booth to sit there and handle that issue. But I think it is grossly unfair to sit there and put this body in this position to sit there and try to put something in this that has no place on our platform.
Mr. Dunham, that was not a point of order. That would be speaking to the motion to withdraw. So when we put it up for debate, we will acknowledge you first.
Mr. Chairman.
State your name and SD number.
Jeff LeBlanc, SD3.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, a point of inquiry, please. I just want to be clear that this is an avenue for this motion. Under Rule 44, it is clearly stated, is it not, that it is under the purview of this body.
Please read Rule 44, Mr. LeBlanc.
I will have to pull it up, Mr. Chairman. That was discussions we had that the word "or" was in there, that it could be brought to the SREC or the state convention committee.
That is correct.
That was my point of inquiry.
Yes, it can be brought up to. It has to pass by 2/3 in Polk County. Then it can be presented before, it has to be carried to the SREC, where it has to pass by 2/3 of a vote. And once that's done, then the censure is passed. The censure is adopted. If not, the censure is lost. So it is up to, but in this position where we are, it's a majority vote.
Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr. Klein.
Chairman. Yes, I make a motion, we give the gentleman 1 more minute since the other side was able to speak to us before and again today. And so if he has anything more to say.
Okay, without objection, we'll give Mr. Hahn 1 more minute. Hearing done, the motion is adopted. Mr. Hahn, you have 1 more minute.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to expound on my last comments about being censured for reporting this matter to the police department, because this does aggrieve me personally and it affects me personally. This gentleman that I filed a criminal charge against is a convicted sex offender, registered sex offender in the state of Texas. He's an individual that's currently under 7 felony indictments here in Polk County. As recently as June 6th, he's published on his blog what I consider to be a death threat against me. This is part of an ongoing matter that is currently under the investigation by the Texas Rangers, and I think I have the same right as any other citizen to report threats against my safety and resort to legal process to protect myself without being censured by my county Republican Party. And the fact that they are censuring me for doing something in defense of my family and my own life, I think speaks volumes about their motivation in this particular circumstance. And I don't really have anything to add. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I do implore you to read my written response because it expounds on our actions that were taken more thoroughly before you vote on this matter. I think it sets forth, what our position is, but I'd ask that the matter be denied, please.
Yeah, Mr. Hahn, your time has expired. Mr. Dunham.
Thank you.
I need to, you wish to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wish to make a motion to delete this motion or this resolution altogether. It has no place on the Texas platform. This should be handled either in the courts with due process or at the ballot box.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to delete the platform in its entirety. We have a second.
Not the platform, just a resolution.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Matt. To strike this resolution from the platform. Do we have a second?
Lee Wamscons, SD 9. I second that.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Mr. Dunham, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, and I think I've said my piece. I think everybody can understand. Everyone needs to have due process. That's what the judicial system is all about. And if there's a failure to sit there and uphold the law, then let it be resolved in the courts. If not, and it's a personal issue on feelings of whether this individual is performing their tasks and duties, then to handle it at the ballot box. Otherwise, it has no place in the great state of Texas, let alone the Republican Party platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunham. Is there anyone that wishes to speak against?
Mr. Chair, just a point of inquiry, Carter Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, you're recognized. Mr. Thomas, you're recognized.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, as I understand it, there are 2 ways for this to be resolved. Can the SREC take this up at the next session?
Yes, it will. They can't. Well, it will have to go back through Polk County for a vote and then carried to the SREC. It has to pass by 2/3 of a margin in Polk County. Once it reaches the SREC, a member will have to carry it before the body and debate it, and it has to pass by 2/3 of a vote there in order for it to be valid.
Well, let me ask you, how long would that take? I mean, can they meet in a month? And when does the SREC meet again?
The SREC, there's going to be an organizational meeting after this. I think the next SREC meeting is going to be in September, after the national convention.
So this logically could be resolved at the SREC. I mean, it could be in the September timeframe on a rocket docket.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
Thank
correct. It
you.
could be resolved. One of the
Mr. Chairman?
SRC members will have to carry it.
Point of information.
Mr. Novus, you have the floor.
From my understanding, the SREC meeting in September will be September 18th and 19th.
September 18th and 19th. Thank you, Mr. Novus. I appreciate that. Is there anyone?
Called a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the question is called. That ends all debate. All those in favor of calling the question, let me get your voter thing up.
So there's no speaking against?
What we did, anyone speaking against the rescinding of this resolution?
Yes, this is Matt Long.
Okay, we have Mr. Long. You are speaking against the adoption of this resolution.
Well, the question has been called, so we need to vote on whether or not we're going to call the question before we reopen debate.
You are correct. The question has been called. All those in favor of ending debate, check the green yes. Opposed, no. Okay, we'll go another 5 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, Senate District 8, Paul Chabot, I do not see a box to vote.
Oh, you do not see a box. Click on participants.
I'm sorry, I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, and just click yes or no. Yes to end debate, no, not to end debate. We're going 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. It is now closed. There are 15 votes for yes, 10 votes for no. Debate is debate is over.
Fails, doesn't it? Takes 2/3 on a closed debate.
In the general rule for convention, it is a majority vote. Well, let's go to rule 44.
That was just calling the question. Calling the question requires a 2/3 majority, doesn't it? Or did we change that in our committee rules?
A county or senatorial may, or district executive committee may by 2/3 of those vote in adoption. Those present voting. I believe on a convention, it's a majority vote.
To call the question?
To call, yeah, well, call the question.
This is just a call to question. This is just a call to question. This is not a call for a vote on the.
This is to call the question to end debate. Mr. Westbrook's comment was, we do not have 2/3 of a vote to end debate. And looking at the general rules, it is in a convention, it is majority on.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry. Does it take a 2/3 vote to adopt the rule under the state party rule, but once it's adopted, it would take a simple majority vote? Would you concur with that assessment? In other words, under the party rules, you would need 2/3 to adopt a previous question rule, but wouldn't it be true that once you've adopted the rule, it takes a majority to apply it?
Okay, resolutions.
What did our committee establish its rule as? Because we passed one on this, didn't we?
Yeah, it's rule 14. It says previous question motions are allowed. Once they're allowed, I believe it's a simple majority, but it takes a 2/3 vote to allow them. So if the rule had more than 1/3.
Okay, here is the previous question for convention. Any convention, when the previous question has been moved and seconded and is sustained by a majority vote, the question shall have been deemed to have been called, and a vote shall occur on the pending question, as except in section B of this rule. The closed nomination has to do with nominations, delegates and alternates. No, it takes a majority vote to call the previous question.
So now we're voting on the amendment to strike the resolution.
We are voting on the amendment to strike resolution. Now, since the previous question has been called.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
I believe in the rules it says you cannot call the question until there's been debate. Is it not the case?
The point of calling the question is to end debate. So
that is correct.
The rules says.
Point
you
of
can't do that.
information.
Well,
Point of order, there was no against.
yeah, there was no against. The debate was ensued, and we were getting ready to call for the vote. And then someone called the previous question. So here's what happens. When you call the previous question and it's seconded, did we have a second on the previous question? Then it is sustained by a majority vote, which we have. The question shall be deemed to have been called and the vote occurred upon the pending question. So which means when you call the previous question, that also counted into the vote against the motion. So the resolution is not adopted. Am I looking at this correctly? Rule 16A, the previous question, which was called and been moved and seconded and was sustained, the question shall have been deemed to be called in the vote, and a vote shall occur upon the pending question. The pending question was to strike this resolution from the platform.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the way I understand it and the way we've been doing it all week is that we would have a vote on calling the question, and then we would vote on the actual amendment or the.
Yes, I believe that's correct whenever we adopted rules. So now we had debate for, we asked for debate against. The debate for was to strike this resolution from the plank. I mean,
yeah,
to strike this resolution from the platform.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, Jeff LeBlanc, SD3.
Point of order, state your point of order, Mr. LeBlanc.
My point of order was I was attempting to testify against when I was interrupted to call the question.
Okay, the question has been called and it's been voted on. Did we override Mr. LeBlanc's right to testify? Well, the question.
I don't think he was recognized yet. I think he was trying to get recognized and the question was called, so.
To the individual who called the question, would you like to withdraw the previous question?
We've already voted on it.
I will.
Okay, does anybody want to reconsider?
Can I make a point of information, please? Lee Wamscons, SD9.
Okay, Mr. Carter, I move to reconsider. Do we have a second on reconsidering?
William Lutz, SD14, move to second.
Second is properly moved and seconded.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Mr. Dunham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe you can only sit there and vote that way if you voted, if you're looking to change your vote.
Yeah, did this person vote in favor of calling the question? For reconsideration?
The individual who called the reconsider vote in favor of calling the question.
We didn't vote on calling the question.
Yes,
yeah, we just did.
The vote was to call the question, and now any individual who voted in favor of calling the question, do you wish to reconsider? Do you wish to reconsider?
Yes, Rolando Garcia, SD15. I voted in favor of calling the question. I did not know that there was someone to speak against the motion.
Thank you, Mr.
Reconsideration
Garcia.
votes require 2/3, I think. Is that correct?
I am looking for it right now.
Mr. Chairman, I'll rescind my call to question, so Mr. LeBlanc may speak.
One is once the motion has been properly moved and seconded, it cannot be withdrawn unless it's a vote on by the majority. The call of the question was voted on by the majority, therefore that is out of order. Commit to refer. Okay, we have the motion to reconsider. I believe. Here it is, reconsider. Do we have a second to reconsider?
Matt Long will second this.
Okay, the vote has been called and seconded. Is there any debate? Do you wish to speak to your vote to reconsider?
Yes, Rolando Garcia, SD15. Again,
Mr. Garcia.
We.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
this is to reconsider, to allow it to come back on the table to
Yes.
debate.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't think it, I mean, I did not know there were people trying to speak against. We didn't really have debate on this. We had a debate is when you have two sides. We didn't hear from anyone speaking against the motion. So I don't think we really had debate before we could call the question. So let's at least hear from someone, you know, so we can have a proper debate.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Okay, the motion to reconsider, he spoke in favor. Is there anyone against to reconsider? Okay, without objection, we will reconsider the motion. Hearing none, the motion is adopted. We will now go to debate. Mr. Dunham had spoke in favor of rescinding the Polk County resolution. Is there anyone opposed to rescinding the Polk County
Mr. Chairman,
resolution?
Jeff LeBlanc.
Mr. LeBlanc, you're recognized.
I'm speaking against merely upon the basis that the argument for has been it doesn't belong to this body and things of that nature. And while I may personally agree with that, our issue here is with rules. And if we have a problem with Rule 44, the way it is written, then that needs to be addressed here. But as it stands, this is 100% within our purview. So I say the problem here is with rules.
Okay, it's well taken. Is there anyone
in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address the body in favor.
We have Mr. Patrick, you're recognized.
I will defer to Leah, give her a chance. So Leah, go ahead.
Could you bring the screen, the Word document down so I can see all the platform members? No,
Point of inquiry.
Okay, Mr. Patrick had deferred to Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the district attorney's comments, he mentioned that we had all received a document with his answers to all of the allegations. I did not receive that document, and in the chat, several other members of this committee did not receive that document. So I am in favor of not passing the resolution because I do not believe this body has the full information on both sides to make this decision.
Thank you, Lee. Is there anyone opposed?
This is Matt Long, Senate. Matt
Mr.
Long.
Long?
Yes, I would like to speak to keeping this in the resolution, as I think Rule 44 is a very important tool, and I respect the county executives committee's decisions, and I think we should go forward always accepting the local county's decision, and they're the ones with the most information. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak in favor of the resolution.
Okay, we've had two in favor.
I have a point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Please
rules
state
are now 2
your
and
name
2.
and point of inquiry.
Yes, sir. Are we looking at both halves of this from Polk County? Are we looking at Abbott and Mr. Hahn? Or are we just considering Mr. Hahn?
This Polk County resolution was the one that was brought before the body. And and if there's any other resolutions that you want to consider, we can bring them before this body for a vote.
Well, there's two
Being
parts.
considered right now.
There's two parts. That was my question. Is this the whole or?
The only part we've considered is the part against the local DA. We've not at all talked about or discussed or considered or debated the part about the governor.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak as one who would like to strike this?
Our rules were put in place. It was 2 in favor, 2 against. Okay, now are you ready for the question?
Point of information, Mr. Chairman, Tanya Robertson, SD 11.
Ms. Robertson, state your point of information.
So if this body were to pass this resolution and to be presented in our report, it would be taken to the floor and voted on by the whole delegation, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is
Mr.
Caleb
Chairman,
Yell,
point of clarification, please.
point of information.
Mr. Caleb, what SD are you from?
SD 18.
18, please state your point of information.
So I would like to know how many members got the information from both sides. I see that at least 2 other committee members did not receive information from either side, and I would just like to know how many people actually received that information and read that information.
Madam Secretary, has the information been emailed out to all of the committee members, to your knowledge?
I apologize. I was notified that Mr. Pilato was elected to this committee at 11:09. So
I see 2 other members that did not get any of this information, and that's my question. How many people actually received that information and read it, had time to read it?
It's in,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, it's in chat as well as a backup.
It's in chat as well. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes,
Amanda
Ms. Smith.
Smith, SD 28. I was also
State your point of
included.
information.
Yes, I was also included in the newly elected permanent positions. So I would need to get the information as well. Would that be able to be emailed to me?
Right now, we in the brevity of time, the convention is starting in 7 minutes, and the information has been posted in chat. If you is that correct, Mr. Chabot?
It is. I posted it in chat about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Great, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
Matt Patrick, SD 16.
Mr.
Just point of
Patrick.
clarification. We had a
State your
question a few minutes ago about whether or not the resolution would be voted on by the entire body. And while it is technically correct that they will, it will be included as part of the platform. So if we have an up or down vote on the platform, it would be carried automatically. It would require that someone move and be successful in that movement, that this be considered separately. And I think that is not at all guaranteed. So I think if people are going to be voting on whether or not we should take this resolution forward, just bear in mind that once it's attached to the platform, it may not get separate consideration.
point well taken.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
can you be real clear with us what a yes vote means and what a no vote means?
To the vote for Mr.
Vote
Dunn,
for
would you
would
please
be
state
to
your
res-
motion?
Yes,
Okay,
a
the
vote
vote
for
for-
would be to rescind.
Okay, the
Or
to vote for
delete.
this resolution is to rescind. To vote against is to include it in our report to the convention. Do you understand what we have 2 for and 2 against? Do you understand what you're voting on? To vote for this Polk resolution is to rescind. To vote against is to adopt, to put it in the plank.
Mr. Chairman, point of information. Send to
Mr. Chabot.
Just to be clear, if we are voting yes, then we are saying no, do not censure the district attorney, correct?
That is correct.
We
That is
vote
correct.
no?
If you vote no, it will censure the district attorney.
Okay, so if we vote yes, then just please, because it is a little confusing, I think, having gone back and forth. Lastly, if we vote yes on this motion, then it will kill it will not censure the DA, correct? If we vote yes.
That's correct. If you vote
Okay.
yes, it rescinds, it kills it. If you vote
Thank you.
no,
Thank you.
it keeps it alive.
Yes to strike.
Okay, are you ready for the vote? Go to your
What are you voting?
parental thing here. I mean, the participants thing.
Yes, you don't want to censure her.
Yes, a yes is to strike, a no is to adopt. Okay, let me clear chat. Clear all. Okay. Okay, the green is a yes. Red is no.
Mr. Chairman, looks like the votes got cleared out for those that voted a few minutes ago.
I did clear the vote, so the voting can now go ahead and proceed to vote. I'll give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes is 20 votes. No is 8. the resolution
Thank you.
is lost. It will not be part of the platform.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, Amber Shipham, SD4, is it appropriate at this time to bring up a resolution?
Ms. Secretary, what time does the platform start? I mean, the virtual.
The general session is scheduled to start at 12:30. And first, according to the agenda, the Credentials Committee report takes place, then the Rules Committee report, and then Legislative Priorities and Platform Committee reports.
Chair, I have a motion on the floor to adopt the entire platform once we've dealt with the resolution, which has now been done. And I believe that motion has been properly seconded.
There was a motion on the floor to from I think it was who had the motion on the floor.
This is Matt Patrick, SD 16.
Oh, it was there was. See, they moved my screen. I can't see her now. She had a motion on the floor to adopt a resolution.
Amber Shipham,
The resolution was just voted down.
No, it's a different resolution. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Mr.
That's
Chair,
correct.
Mr. Chair, what she
Amber Shipman has the floor. Do you wish to submit another resolution?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, we have a point of order. State your name and point of order.
Carl McConnell, SD 13. She questioned whether or not it was the appropriate time to submit another resolution, and that did not take precedence over the previous motion to approve the plank, which was done before we started discussing resolutions. So my question is it proper to accept a new plank or new resolution when we already have a motion on the floor by my comrade from SD 16 to move to adopt the plank after the previous resolution was considered?
Okay, your point of order is well taken.
I don't want to.
Your point of order is well taken, Mr. Patrick. You had a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman,
Please restate your
parliamentary
motion.
inquiry.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry, William Lutz, SD 14.
Mr. Lutz, please state your parliamentary inquiry.
Are we required to take general testimony prior to adopting the platform? I want to make sure there is no point of order available on the convention floor.
I think it would be prudent that we do so.
Therefore, I raise a point of order against further consideration of this motion under Rule 14A of the Republican Party of Texas, that we would take at least some public testimony prior to adopting the platform finally and adjourning this committee, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Lutz, it's well taken. Karen, would you go ahead and open it up for public testimony? We will testify we'll hear testimony for the next 15 minutes. We will run a little late, but
Mr. Chairman, will you recognize me to put a time limit on the public testimony to amend our rules relating to time limit?
yes, Mr. Lutz, make your motion.
I would make a motion that each testifier be limited to 1 minute with the chairman's aggregate limit of, do you want 15 or 20, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, but I'm about to do some critical stuff.
We have 15 minutes.
Okay, with an aggregate limit of
Where
15
that?
on public testimony. So 1
Okay, well,
minute.
let's take it to an aggregate of 20 minutes.
20 minutes,
And then
okay.
we'll have-
I move that
do
we
everything
set
I
a
can about it, which is not a bluff thing.
time limit per person for an aggregate limit of 20 minutes pursuant to Rule 14, committee under Rule 14 in our committee rules. So moved, Mr. Chairman. William Lutz, SD 14.
Okay, the motion on the
second that.
floor. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry.
Because of all the
All
background.
those in favor, check the yes. Opposed, check the no. Got 10
hold on.
seconds.
Chair, I
5
couldn't
seconds.
make the motion.
The motion is adopted, 22 in favor, 2 opposed.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Point of information, Mr. Patrick, and then we'll go to I think it was Amber, is that correct?
Correct.
Mr.
Yes.
Patrick.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to alert the staff. I don't know if they can do anything about it, but I'm getting complaints from my SD that the online video is cutting in and out and they can't follow along. So I just wanted to see if we could do anything to fix that. I mean, I know it's difficult, but I just want to let you know about that.
I
Okay,
notified who we could about it.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, shall we open it up?
Mr. Chairman, I need to know where.
Point of information.
Ms. Shipman?
After this 20-minute time for people to speak, would that be an appropriate time to bring up the resolution?
If the body so desires, yes. It will have to come up, it'll go before the body for a vote. Karen, go ahead and open it up for people to begin to.
All right, the first person on deck is Barb Stouffer. She says she's testifying on government and foreign affairs.
Okay.
I have just clicked to admit her.
Okay. Okay, pull up the next one too, so she can be ready to testify. Ms. Stouffer, you're on the, you are recognized.
Do you want me to post the Zoom link in like Facebook or something?
Yep, post a Zoom link.
Okay, will do.
Post it everywhere we can.
Mr. Chairman, can we get everybody's mics muted so the testimony does not get interrupted again?
Okay.
I couldn't hear the last motion, so I'm not sure what we voted on.
The last motion was to vote to allow testimony for 1 minute with an aggregate time of a total of 20 minutes, and then we will proceed with the vote. Is that correct, Mr. Lutz?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Karen, who is the first individual that wishes to address the body? How do I unmute?
Mr. Chairman, I was just informed by Faith Busey they're giving us another hour to work.
From who?
Faith Busey.
They need to contact me so that I can verify that. I would be more than happy to do this. Okay, Karen, thank you, Mr. Westbrook. Who is our first to testify?
Barb Stouffer, please speak up.
Ms. Stouffer, are you there?
Mr. Chair, very quickly, a point of order. It appears that our live streaming has stopped.
That's not a point of order. That's a point of personal privilege. Okay, let's, I'll call Mr. Brandon and see what happened. But the point is well taken.
Point of inquiry.
Chair.
Carter Thomas.
Team.
Should I admit the next person?
Mr. Chairman, Roman Klein, SD 17.
Bye. Okay, he's working on trying to get our ups. He's checking into it.
Mr.
Chairman,
who is speaking? Mr. Klein?
Yes, would it be appropriate to remove the participants for the resolution argument?
That was my question. Mr. Hahn's still on.
The what is still on?
Mr. Hahn.
Yes, we can remove the participants in the resolution.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm told that the YouTube link is working for us. So the Facebook is not, but YouTube appears to be working.
Okay, we will take it to YouTube. We'll take it whatever we can do. Karen, would you take off Mr. Hahn and Mr. Grooby?
They have been removed.
Okay. All right, and we on the YouTube link. Let's go to the next speaker and we can come back to her if we can get it to work.
All right, the next person who was requested to testify to the committee is Mr. Sean Ricker. Here he is.
Mr. Ricker, you are on.
Okay, his audio should be kicking in.
Okay, and let's go to the next one and get them on deck. We're gonna play baseball here. Okay, Mr. Ricker.
And then after that, it's John Bauckham and then Louis LaRota.
Okay, Mr. Ricker, you are recognized. How do I unmute Mr. Ricker?
Ask him to unmute himself.
All right.
Mr. Ricker. Okay, Mr. Ricker, you have the floor. How you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing today?
All right, good. You got 1 minute. Speak like an auctioneer.
Yep. I know we don't have a lot of time. The two things I'd like to speak against, and if I'm a little bit delayed, it's been frustrating because it looks like you guys are working on a OneDrive document rather than the Google Doc, so I haven't been able to keep up. But this is supposed to be a grassroots document, I think, or a platform and resolutions, and removing the I'm already I didn't get ready. Removing the resolutions on qualified immunity and reforming qualified immunity, as well as the plank to reduce the penalty for cannabis, was very strong in the grassroots. And in general, the way this process has gone, I feel for everybody in the situation we've been put in, but with this very minimal testimony, myself and many others may likely be calling for this document to be thrown out at the end of the day. I don't think we followed the process well. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ricker. Okay, who's the next one on the
The next gentleman in line to testify is Mr. John Bauckham.
could you remove Mr. Ricker? Mr. Bauckham, you have the floor.
Hello, can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. Well, I want to thank your committee for the work that you've done. I would reiterate Mr. Riker's points about some of the dysfunction that we've had because of the online platform. It's unfortunate that many of us delegates are just now getting into this meeting. My motion was to speak, or I was preferring to speak on the removal of the civil penalty plank. I think this was something that was reaffirmed by many Senate districts across the state as being included in the 2018 platform that was readopted by many Senate districts. The committee, on its own will, without testimony from delegates, has chosen to remove this plank, which was supported by over 80% of the delegates at the 2018 convention with plank by plank voting. I know Mr. Chabot is the one that has made the motion to remove this. And I would argue that he also agrees, as he stated, that the prisons are not currently overflowing with criminals convicted of marijuana possession, and nor should they be. But where we do see the most damage is locally through our cities and our states, with over 60,000 annual arrests for possession only, each of those costing counties $10,000 on average to deal with those situations. At the same time, while we're seeing over 89% of burglaries, 60% of rapes, 33% of murders in Texas going unsolved, and those statistics are directly from the Department of Public Safety. It creates a tremendous burden on our law enforcement. We've seen many counties have already moved to diversion programs, but depending on where you are in the state, you have an unequal application of the law. So we're not trying to condone cannabis use. We're not trying to encourage anyone to utilize cannabis. What we're trying to do is create a punishment that matches the crime by creating a civil penalty with a fine, rather than someone being arrested, incarcerated, potentially staying in jail if they can't make their bail, and then having the collateral consequences that follow them for a lifetime from the conviction of a drug offense. Both President Trump and Governor Abbott have mentioned that people shouldn't be in jail for possessing small amounts of marijuana. That's exactly what this does. It would remove the ability under the current penalty of a Class B misdemeanor, which carries up to 6 months in jail, to allow these individuals to still suffer, have to, pay a fine, but not have to suffer through the stigmatization of having a drug conviction of the rest of their life, which can affect their financial aid, ability to get a job. And right now in this crisis with the government shutdown, the last thing we need to do is be creating more barriers for people to get back to work. I would hope that the committee would reconsider this plank and reinsert it back into the platform. That's been the will of the delegates very strongly and overwhelmingly for the last 2 sessions. And I think it's unfortunate that some members of this committee use disinformation, slander, and other ulterior motives to promote their narrow view without hearing from people who had an opportunity to refute those comments.
Mr. Bachman, what is that plank number?
I believe it was plank 107.
107. Okay.
I'll have to look that up real quick.
Mr. Novus, are you doing the time?
I was lax in that job, sir.
Okay.
But this time has been reached.
Okay. Mr. Bachman, thank you so much for your testimony. Plank 107. Let me note that. Ms. Marshall, who is the next one up for testimony?
Our next person is Louis LaRota.
Louis LaRota. And then who's after Mr. LaRota?
After Mr. LaRota is Mark Young.
And okay, Mr. LaRota, you have the floor. Could you take Mr. Bachman off, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Mr. LaRota,
Thank you for this time, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak on behalf of the criminal justice planks that were carefully crafted in our subcommittees. Many delegates came out to testify, including myself, people on the committee that have served in criminal justice capacities. And we think this is the time to address reforming qualified immunity. We're not asking to eliminate qualified immunity, but we do need to look at it carefully because we have created a class of citizens that can violate other people's rights with total impunity. We have to act carefully because this is how we erode trust in our communities. I live in House District 148. There's a lot of Democrats here, a lot of moderates here. These are sensitive issues of the community when we feel that trust between the community and the police has been completely eroded. This would simply ask the legislature to look carefully at the people who are using qualified immunity in the most egregious fashions to skirt the rule of law. We do not need special classes of citizens, and I urge you to reinsert this plank so that Texans can have fairness and equality. Thank you.
Mr. LaRota, what was the title of the plank?
I believe it was qualified immunity reform, sir.
Thank you, Mr. LaRota. Mr. Young, you're now you're now recognized.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with hearing everything. I've got something going on in the background. My name is Mark Young. I'm Austin County Delegate, CD 10. Hang on just a second here, gentlemen. I'm going to try to.
Mr. Young, please mute any audio in the background.
Karen, could you take off Mr. LaRota, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to this while Mr. Young gets his audio. Let's go to the next speaker, and then we'll come back to Mr. Young.
I'm told the live stream has stopped. William Lutz, please let the party know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lutz.
This is Mark Young. Can you hear me now?
Mr. Chair, it says in our window that it is streaming live on custom live streaming service.
Okay, then we will proceed. Mr. Young, you have the floor. Karen, will you get the next speaker up? We have to go with what we have. And it is on the live stream is on Facebook, or is it on YouTube, or both?
Mr. Chair, I don't know. Mr. Chair, I don't know which is the case, but up in the upper left-hand corner of our screen, it says live on custom live streaming service.
When you click on it, it goes to Facebook. Yes. I'm sorry. I've got two windows going in the back and I can't figure out how to stop one of them.
Okay, well, we'll
So
pursue.
I will continue to speak and testify.
Okay, your time is limited.
My issue is around the inclusion of anything around this Rule 44 in the platform. I believe this is a circular firing squad type of rule. We should not be using it. I think that also
Mr. Young, we cannot hear you. Would you please work on your audio and then we will call you back. Let's go to the next delegate who wishes to testify, and then we'll come back to Mr. Young.
what's going on here?
Karen, let's go to the next.
Okay, I'll try Barb Stouffer again. She's the only one in the waiting room as of yet.
Okay.
Barb Stouffer, are you there? Okay. I imagine we'll have a wave in a moment.
Hey,
Ms. Stouffer, are you ready to testify?
Oh, good Lord, I guess I can. Yes.
Ms. Stouffer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am so concerned about, I think it's plank number 54 that's been taken out altogether of the platform regarding the Convention of the States. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. I would urge the committee to restore the language from the 2018 plank that we had, where we actually fought very hard to get this Convention of the States approved by our legislature in 2017. So I would ask that that original language be restored.
Mr. Chairman, I have an inquiry.
Mr. Perry?
Did we not rescind the strike? Therefore, that would put the platform back, that would put that plank back in the platform calling for the COS. That was my understanding of what we did.
That is incorrect. Carter Thomas SD 21. It was adopted, so we pulled it out as the rules were. It is law.
No, yes. we adopted a strike, and then now we have rescinded the strike. Did we not?
We struck the rescission language, Paul.
Yeah. Yes, we struck the rescission language, so that would mean since it's not rescinded, that would mean the platform would stay as it is, correct?
They're not connected.
Mr. Westbrook, you're recognized.
The rescission language had replaced the language from the 2018 platform, and so when we struck the rescission language, it just took the plank out altogether.
So we voted to rescind the call for a COS, and then we struck the rescission. Am I correct?
Yes.
All we did is vote the plank out. We didn't vote the old language in.
Okay.
So the plank, on the plank, on that 54 plank, the Convention of the States was enacted into law. And any plank, and our charge was that any plank that was enacted into law we were to remove that plank or lay it aside. And so that's what happened. It was struck. Now, I think what they're coming back and saying is there's a part of that plank that they want to put back in there.
Well, the plank,
and so that's what I'm understanding. But it was enacted in law. That was the charge of the committee. There were 42 that were, or 49 planks that were enacted into law or partially acted into law. And those are the portions that were struck from the previous platform, to the best of our ability with the time that we had.
Mr. Chair, point of
Mr.
privilege.
Thomas, you're recognized.
Yeah, I was in that committee. We specifically voted to rescind the 2018 plank because it was law. We then, many of us believe that it is a bad idea, and we argued for the rescission language, which has been stricken. So
Okay.
we
So it is
will not
struck
be
then.
putting it back in because we essentially voted to take it out because it
Okay.
is law.
Mr. Chairman, this is Caleb Piello, SD18.
Mr. Padillo?
So,
Padillo, sorry.
that's fine. So I realized that SJR2 actually was passed by the legislature. It's a joint resolution, and just because it was passed, it's still pending in Congress, so we cannot say that it's been enacted. I would move to put that plank back in place.
Okay, the motion
Point
is
of
out
order.
of order because we are receiving testimony from our delegates to the convention. So Ms. Stauffer, do you have anything else that you wish to add to your
No, I don't. Thanks for the clarification on that. So it's been removed because it is actual law.
well, it was passed by our legislature. Now it goes to Congress.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Karen, our next, do we have Mr. Young? Is he available to speak or is
Oh,
he
he was
still?
next in line after Mr. Scott Wingirter is now here to testify.
Okay, Mr. Linger, you have the floor.
Mr. Scott Wingirter, if you
Thank
could
you,
unmute
sir.
yourself.
Yes, sorry, just got in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a resolution that I would like to bring to the committee. It's an anti-1619 project resolution. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself properly. Scott Wingiter, SD4. The 1619 project is a project that was put out by the New York Times Magazine and about the first year that slaves were brought over to America in the colony of Jamestown. They have included a whole bunch of curriculum that they're putting out towards all 50 states to try to adopt it into the public school system of America. This is a complete leftist ideology and a very dangerous and anti-historical curriculum that is dangerous to America. We need to put strong language into our Republican Party platform that stops the 1619 project from being adopted by any public schools in the state of Texas. I have emailed the committee a draft of the resolution, and you should all have that. I know my representative from SD4, Amber Shipham, has that with her
Chairman,
right now.
time, please.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Karen, who is next? And I thought we did add some language in there about that very same issue.
Mr. Mark Young is next.
Okay, Mr. Young, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wingert.
I apologize for the problems we had in the past.
All right, Mr. Young, you got the floor. Thank you.
Two things I want to talk about. One is Article 5 convention. Y'all deleted the language in the temporary committee. I think that it was very clear from a lot of people that we want an Article 5 convention. I think with given the Supreme Court's decision with respect to the electors, I think it's very clear that we as a state could limit what the charge that we give to any representatives to a constitutional convention. I think that's important. The second item I want to talk to you about is this Rule 44 thing you put on the back of the platform. I do not believe that has anything germane with the platform committee. I'm going to recommend that we delete Rule 44 or amend it to such a language that we're not going to be sanctioning people or asking that we take people off. We're tired of circular firing squads. We're losing our position in Texas and gradually turning a red state blue because of the way we're treating our officials. It's time we all start standing together.
Chairman, it's time.
Thank you.
Mr. Young, thank you for your testimony. Karen, the next individual in line.
The next The next individual in line to testify is Mr. Marco Roberts. And Mr. Marco Roberts, you have the floor.
That's for the chairman. Mr.
Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you for your time. I don't know how much time I've got. I think it's 30 seconds.
You have 1 minute.
1 minute? Thank you. It's a little difficult because I have no idea what you were just talking about. We just got in here, but I will just simply say that I look forward to you guys please revising the adoption plank to strike out the last sentence. It's a needless, provocative statement that I think will inflame a lot of passions coming into this election in 2020. And so everything else about that adoption plank we advise. Also, we urge you to maintain the original planks on homosexuality behavior, supporting traditional marriage as they were in 2018, which I think so far you have done, assuming any changes we haven't seen. We thank you for your work. We know it's very difficult. We know what you're doing is very tough and you have a lot of folks pressuring on top of you. But I want to assure you that we will support this party and we'll support your work and efforts and we'll support your stances on same-sex marriage, on traditional marriage with the suggestions that we're making. So that's my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. What was the title of that plank that you are testifying to?
I don't know. I know it was referring to adoption and it was a state affairs.
Okay.
Plain title, adoption?
Adoption?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Karen, who is the next?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Novus?
for your American Identity plank, 138, I think is your 1619 language.
Okay, that was 138, plank 138. That was for the last gentleman. Okay, plank 138. I hope he's listening. Okay. Karen, who is the next individual?
The next person here to testify, sir, is Mr. Dallas Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy, you have the floor.
Yes, my name is Dallas Kennedy. I'm a delegate from Ector County, SD 31. I don't think y'all brought up the censure 44 motion against Governor Greg Abbott yet. I strongly urge you to let this get to the floor. Our delegates have a right to hear this. Ector County passed it, along with many other people who passed Rule 44 resolutions against Governor Abbott. He has violated our rights, violated the Constitution. You can read our resolution. It's been sent to you. I urge you strongly to allow this to get to the floor. Allow the delegates to vote. I don't care how you stand one way or another on the issue. Y'all know this is an issue that's been passed by many counties. There's many people that are passionate about it. The delegates have a right to vote on it. So don't vote on whether you agree with the censure motion or not. Vote on whether you think delegates have the right to have their voice heard. Rule 44 is a rule in our platform. It's there for this exact reason, and we need to be allowed to use it. So please let the delegates' voice be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And this is a resolution. What's the title of your resolution?
It's it was a resolution.
I emailed it to the platform.
It was emailed to the platform committee. It's a resolution to censure Governor Greg Abbott.
And it comes out of SD 31?
Yes, from Ector County, out of SD 31.
Also been passed through Montgomery County and Denton County as well.
Okay, we will just go with the SD 30. Okay, we'll look that up. Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Kennedy.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you hearing me.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chair, we
Karen,
still have.
who's the next? Who's the next?
Mr. Chair,
we can get him on deck, and then I'll answer your point of inquiry, Mr. Padillo.
The only person I had signed up yet is Mr. Marco Roberts signed up again.
Okay, we've heard him once. We need to hear someone else.
Right, just one moment. I'm waiting for it to fill again.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chair, point of inquiry. We still have some people who have testified.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Padillo had a point of inquiry before yourself, unless I misheard it correctly. Mr. Padillo, Pilato?
Yes, sir.
You had a point of inquiry?
No, sir.
I apologize. Mr. Thomas, you have the floor.
Yes, we still have Barb Stauffer and some other folks who've already testified that it looks like they're still in. The process has been, they've spoken.
I apologize. I will remove them during the next person. And we had somebody who had just appeared and then disappeared.
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Westbrook, state your point of inquiry.
David Westbrook, SD26. What is the exact process for people to sign up to testify right now?
They email, and then they email Karen, and she puts them in the link, and then they come on and testify.
Is there a particular?
I think that's what Mr. Moore had set up for. He set up for us.
Okay.
Are we talking about the email address that's published on the party website?
It is published.
And Mr. Justin Machasik is now in the room to testify.
Mr. Machasik, you have the floor. Justin.
Okay, there he is.
I don't see him. Okay, Mr. Justin, you have the floor.
We can't hear you, Mr. Machasik.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, you have the floor, Mr. Matt. You're muted.
The heck?
You're muted, Mr.
Mahake?
Let me see. I think it might be.
It's going on and off. He's not muted.
No, he's not muted.
You hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, y'all. I submitted a resolution earlier. I wanted to speak on the plank regarding 255 cannabis classification. I'll just read the resolution real quick in the sake of time. Whereas Texas continues to spend millions of dollars on incarceration and court costs for cannabis-related offenses, whereas Texas veterans are not allowed to access cannabis and often trapped into taking opioids and prescription drugs as part of their VA treatment, whereas the current language of the temporary platform report includes this language, cannabis classification, Congress should remove cannabis from the Schedule 1 list and move to Schedule 2. We call upon the Texas legislature to improve the 2015 Use Act to allow doctors the appropriate use of cannabis for their patients. And whereas the previous RPT platform supported the right to choose cannabis as an alternative medicine, allowing the decision to be left between doctor and patient, garnering 78% voting approval from the convention body. And whereas Texas Compassionate Use Program was authored and championed by Stephanie Click, a Republican representative, be it resolved that the permanent RPT platform plank 255 be amended to read, cannabis scheduling, we call upon Congress to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act and the list of controlled substances. We urge the Texas legislature to eliminate the 2015 Compassionate Use Act and replace it with a program allowing doctors and patients determine the appropriate use of cannabis for their individual health care. I personally own a cannabis company in Oklahoma. I would love to pay taxes in Texas, but unfortunately, Texas law doesn't allow us to do that right now. So thank you for reconsidering this option.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Carl McConnell, SD 13. I have a question. Mr. Chair, Carl McConnell, SD 13. I have a question.
State your question, Mr. McDonald.
I was just wondering where we are in terms of our aggregate 20-minute total.
We are past our aggregate 20 minutes total. We were given another hour. And if someone would like to make a motion to extend that 20 minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Smith.
I'd like to make a motion. Amanda Smith, SD 28. I'd like to make a motion that we extend delegate testimony by another 20 minutes.
That would be too long. How about 10 minutes? We have a motion on the floor to extend the debate.
I would allow for that
Okay.
in my
We
motion.
have a motion on the floor to allow testimony for 10 minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
That.
It's moved in second. Without objection, we will extend debate for 10 more minutes.
I object.
Okay, there's an objection. All those in favor of extending the motion for 10 minutes, say aye. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Smith, you
Amanda
wish to make your motion?
Yes, I do. I believe that it's important that we have our grassroots heard. I know that we've been hearing, that you guys have been hearing testimony from the delegates for a while now. And I think that we need to make sure that we get everybody in there that should be able to, now that we have convened the permanent platform. I think we need to be able to hear from them and give them as much time as possible. To me, that's only fair. The delegates are the grassroots.
Okay, is
Point
there
of
anyone
inquiry.
opposed? Point of inquiry?
Mr. Chairman, you said we were given an hour to finish our work. What time is that?
It is now 5 after 1.
I know what time it is now. What time are we supposed to be finished?
By 1:30.
So if we keep extending time for testimony, will we have time to discuss the additional testimony and modify the platform accordingly?
We will not. In my opinion, we will not have enough time.
Mr. Chairman, Amanda Smith, SD 28.
There's a motion on the floor. Ms. Smith spoke in favor. Do we have one against?
I guess I will speak against.
Mr. Novus?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Novus, you're
SD7. I'm concerned with our ability to finish the document in the time allotted, since we have to be finished with 1:30, and we still have items that we'd like to discuss in the committee.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there anyone in favor of extending the time by 10 minutes? Do we have one in favor and one opposed? Are you ready for the vote?
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Who is Mary Kay?
Mary Kay Phelan, sir. She's a member of the committee.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mary Kay. Point of information?
Point of information for Caleb. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sending the grassroots delegation to speak for 10 more minutes. We can give him that. We didn't give him much.
Okay. Mr. Padilla, you had a point of, Padilla, we have a point of information?
Yes, sir. So we're voting to extend time to hear from the delegates, right? And I
Yes,
believe Mr. Tom Nobis mentioned that we still need time to modify and make changes to the platform. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Hello?
That is correct.
So taking, extending the time for hearings, is that going to take time to make changes to the platform?
It's going to take away time to make changes to the platform. Yes, it will.
Mr. Chairman, Amanda
there's a
Smith,
vote.
SD 28. I'd like to remove my motion.
You cannot remove the motion because it's been properly moved and seconded and it has been debated. The only way to remove it is for it to be voted down. Okay, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of adding 10 minutes time for delegates to speak, check the yes. I'm going to clear everything, and check the green yes. Opposed, check no. It'll be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The vote is 9 in favor, 17 opposed. The motion is lost. Shall we continue on with our business? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
We had Ms. Smith.
Yes, Amanda Smith, SD 28. I move that we reconsider plank 107, the civil penalties plank.
Point of order.
Mr. Westbrook.
I believe Amber Shipman had a resolution she was planning to present when we finished with resolutions testimony. That was
That
already.
is, that is correct. Would Mr.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman? Or
Mr.
point of
Patrick.
parliamentary procedure. I had a motion on the floor that was seconded that allowed for us to hear testimony on resolutions and otherwise to vote on the platform as it is. That motion has not been voted on. I would like for us to vote.
Oh, you are correct, Mr. Patrick. Point of order well taken. The motion.
Motion was ruled out of order, wasn't it?
It was not ruled out of order. It was
No,
seconded.
It was probably moved and seconded. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Mr. Patrick?
I would just reiterate what we've talked about before. We've had a lot of debate. We never can finish. We can go on for weeks and weeks. Nobody ever gets everything they want. We've been doing this for 7 days. At some point, we have to vote on the whole thing. We are right up against our deadline that's been extended and extended and extended. I think the document is, while not perfect and while nobody is completely satisfied, is what we need to send up to the body. So I move that we vote to adopt the platform in its current format. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to adopt the platform in its current format. Do we
I'll
have a second?
that. I'll second
Morgan
that.
Matthews, I second it.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Patrick, you've already spoke to your motion. Is there anyone opposed?
I'd like to speak against.
Mr. Westbrook?
Guys, I know we've all had a long week. Been there right there with y'all, but there are items that need to be addressed right now or the entire platform is going to probably get thrown out on the floor. So we should take our time, what little time we have left, and hear those resolutions. Otherwise, it's going to all be for naught, I suspect.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Okay.
Objection.
Point of inquiry.
The question, we had a motion. It was properly seconded. We had someone speak in favor. We had someone opposed. The question stops debate. It's a non debatable. All those in favor of ending debate, check the yes button on the.
Mr. Chairman, that you
All
clearly.
those opposed, check no.
Mr. Chairman, point of information, was the vote clear from the, was everything clear from the previous vote?
Yes, I believe it was, unless I'm out of order. Okay, I'm going to end the voting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The motion is adopted to end debate. It was 19 in favor, 7 opposed. Okay, Mr.
Point of
Patrick.
inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Burnett.
Yes, sir. Chuck Burnett, SD20. Just a question of clarification. Was the work done in the first Zoom meeting completely lost?
No, it was not. No, we went back to where we were debating one issue, and then we came forward with everything that was debated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the motion now is on the floor is to accept the platform as amended. Is that correct, Mr. Patrick?
That would be correct.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'll second Senate District 8, Paul Chabot.
Please repeat that, Mr. Chabot.
I'm sorry, were you looking for a second or was that already on the floor?
The second was, yeah, it was already on the floor. Okay, I'm going to clear everything. So the motion on the floor is to end debate, and debate has been ended. The motion on the floor is to accept the platform in its entirety as amended. All those in favor, check yes. All those opposed, check no. Okay, voting will end in 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting has ended. There are 14 yes and 13 no. The motion is adopted.
Congratulations.
Excellent.
This now
Thanks
concludes.
everybody for your hard work.
Platform.
Great job, team. Great job.
You all have done a wonderful job.
Mr. Chairman,
The time constraints that we have had is unprecedented in any convention. The limits that were put upon us, this committee has gone through things that we've never experienced before. And we believe that in the future, there's even going to be more changes that are going to be thrust upon our freedoms than we ever thought possible. And
Mr. Chairman,
I appreciate the strength and of character of each and every one of you for your participation in this process.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
um,
line SD 17.
Mr. Carter, I think it was you that.
no, Mr. Novus, the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
The
Novus.
motion, as I understand it, was to end debate on the platform section, not resolution section. Is that correct?
No.
No, the motion was to adopt the entire platform.
Okay. Sorry.
That was the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Carl McConnell, SD 13, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Send District
We
8.
have a motion to adjourn. It has been properly moved and seconded. Again, I wish to thank each and every one of you for your work. You have been phenomenal to work with. I guess we will see you on the convention floor.
We need to vote on that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a.
We have a motion to adjourn. It was seconded. All in favor? Check the, I'm going to clear the, check yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of personal privilege.
Mr. Caleb Polino, could you pronounce your last name, please?
That's Piado.
Piado. Point of personal privilege accepted.
So I would like to announce an intent to file a minority report.
I don't know how. Okay, you have.
Mr. Chairman, I raise a point of order against further consideration of what he just said. There was a motion moved and seconded to adjourn. It has been voted upon. Therefore, he did not raise his motion in a timely manner under the rules of the Republican Party of Texas, and his motion is out of order. If it is report. I will raise that point of order.
It's a minority report. It doesn't have to be filed before the adjournment.
Yes, it does. If you read the rule, it has to be announced prior to the adjournment of the committee. The rule is very specific on that. And a motion was moved and seconded to adjourn, and I believe it has passed.
Yes, it has.
We have not taken a vote on the adjournment.
Minority reports.
Out of order.
Okay, the minority report has to be filed before in page 16, number 24. The minority report, if a committee member has notified the committee chairman of the intent to file a minority report before the committee adjourns, and if it's been reduced in writing and signed by not less than 2 or 20% of the members of such. We were in the middle of a vote to adjourn, and we had adjourned, and the minority report is lost.
The report has to be filed within 30 minutes of adjournment, Mr. Chair. I've done this twice.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I believe the rule specifically requires that it be announced before the committee has adjourned, before the committee was adjourned, before you get to the 30
Mr.
minutes.
Chairman, we have not been adjourned yet.
Was taken.
We have the minority report. If a committee member at any convention other than a precinct convention, a minority report of a committee shall be presented to the convention if a committee member has notified the committee chairman of the intent to file a minority report before the committee adjourns, and if it has been reduced to writing and signed by not less than 2 or 20% of the members of such committee, whichever is greater, and presented to the chairman of the committee or the convention secretary no later than 30 minutes after the committee adjourns. Okay, so the committee was adjourned, had been adjourned, and the minority report is lost.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. We haven't adjourned yet.
Mr. Chairman, I raised my point.
Mr. Chair, we were voting on it.
Right, Mr. Chairman, I raised my point as you call for a vote to adjourn. We have not adjourned yet.
And Robert's Rules of Order prohibits any other business while a vote is being taken, so the notice would be out of order until the chair has announced the result of the vote. Therefore, if you bring this motion to the general body, I will raise a point of order that notice was not timely given to the chairman. This minority report is out of order under the state party rules.
Mr. Chairman, I raised my motion before the vote took place.
We were in the middle of a vote.
Process before you raise.
We were in the middle of a vote and the vote was interrupted to bring this on, and you cannot interrupt in the middle of a vote.
That is correct.
Therefore, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you should take a vote. You didn't take a vote.
We did not take a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Vote was taken.
I consider that
What was the vote? I would like to know what the vote was.
I think I've got the vote, Mitch.
The vote was 15-2 to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellent job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Well,
you.
you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you,
Thank you all
Mr.
very
Chair. You
much.
did a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You did great.
Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Everything we did.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
It's been great. I didn't get everything.
Thank
I
you,
wanted
Mr.
either,
Chairman.
so thank you.
Outstanding job.
Chairman and everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for all the editors and staff again. You guys have been just wonderful.
Thank you. The editors and staff have done a wonderful job. They have reduced the amount of work that this committee had to do by, I'm going to say, at least 50%. I don't think we could have gotten near as far in this platform at this go round, and we only had 3 weeks. We only had 3 weeks to pull everything together, and it was the staff and the secretaries that have done that. If we would have had to start from scratch like they normally do, we have 3 months to make it work, but not here. We had about 3 weeks. The last senatorial, the SD convention, was completed on June the 27th, and so we had to pull all that stuff together for this convention here. Not even 3 weeks later. So they did an outstanding job, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much, staff. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Linda Nuttall, and for all the hard work that you guys put into this. You'll have a great day, and we'll see you in the convention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and to the rest of the committee.
You made a mistake, Mark. You shouldn't have killed that minority report. You just killed the whole platform, probably.
What it's like to be railroaded.
It wasn't a mistake. It was a wonderful decision.